Welcome back to 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about the HELLSCAPE etiquette. It is clear that powerful forces are pushing humanity toward dire circumstances. The power of collective human decency is being splintered into smaller and smaller groups that allow for easier manipulation. The majority of the Earth's population is plugged into the internet through personal communication devices. This trend began with optimistic goals toward connecting the world's population, much like Coca-Cola's propaganda did in its late 70s, early 80s commercials, teaching the world to sing in perfect harmony. Yet data became the new precious resource. Obama phones, data mining, and divisive algorithms pit people under the same roof against each other. The truth became more and more subjective. The concept of know thyself is the new Tai Chi. Regular practice and meditation brings one's mind back to one's natural state. The fog of muddy half-truths are cleared away in the wake of calm, focused thought waves. The attacks of September 11th opened the door to neocons, allowing them to wipe their feet on the Constitution with the introduction of the Patriot Act that was created months before the orchestrated attacks. The Patriot Act allowed for the erosion of privacy and certain rights Americans were born with. The American public gave the vampire permission to enter their homes, their lives, their emails, and anything else digital that can be vacuumed up from a server or surveillance platform for those that know better. The Real ID is the latest iteration of that panopticon mechanism. The Real ID was quietly introduced 2 years ago through state driver's license, state ID cards, and travel passports. The Real ID has a very invasive feature called Phone Home. It allows the government to track individuals through their digital driver's licenses or other identity documents. This feature is so problematic, 80 organizations and prominent experts have come together to oppose a new surveillance feature on June the 2nd, 2025 of this year. This diverse group of experts issued a statement focusing on a vital element of identity system architecture, and that is whether it is designed to phone home to the issuer when somebody verifies their identity. Currently, when somebody presents a plastic driver's license, that interaction is between two parties, and the government is none the wiser. But digital driver's licenses are being built so that the system notifies the government every time an identity card is issued, giving a bird's eye view of where, when, and to whom people are showing their identity. That phone home functionality becomes especially intrusive as people start having to use digital ID online, giving the government the ability to track your browsing history. There is a broad consensus among those who work, think, and innovate in the digital identity space that privacy needs to be built into any digital identity system. This is not a partisan issue, and it's one states that must act on this before it's too late. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, has published legislative recommendations for state legislatures outlining 12 technical characteristics and policy measures that must accompany any acceptable digital ID system. Unfortunately, a number of states are adopting such systems without thinking through the potential ramifications of this technology, including 13 states that have already created digital driver's license systems, Nebraska, and another 21 that have passed enabling or study legislation, Georgia as well. Identity systems with phone home capability not only create the potential for tracking people's lives and activities, such as political beliefs certain government officials may not like, but also make it possible for an abusive government to block people from using their IDs for some or all uses. The group of experts are calling on authorities everywhere to favor identity solutions that have no phone home capability whatsoever and to prioritize privacy and security over interoperability and ease of implementation. So, what you have here is a big problem. This crept in and took everybody by surprise because it was sold as a safety feature and not as something that could turn around and bite you in the ass. That's also the same way the Patriot Act was sold to the American public. Now you take that and you wrap that into the tokenization of the physical world that is starting to happen now. Larry Fink, who is the interim head of the World Economic Forum, is pushing for the tokenization of all physical assets, not just homes or gold or money, trees, waterways, parks, mountains. They want to create a digital tag for everything around you, creating a copy of the real world in the digital world that you can then trade and sell and buy these things that are physical assets. This is a big problem because it's tied into crypto. These people these bankers who are pushing against crypto are now adopting crypto because it will allow them to tokenize, to put a price tag on everything around you. But the problem is, unless you own these things already, you'll have a hell of a time trying to buy these things in the digital world. This is a major problem.
Putin is upset, and his number two guy was basically trying to out Trump for saying that we're trying to do a Swiss job with the U.S. dollar, convert all your debt to digital, and basically the dollar will still have value, but it just won't be as valuable as it is. Now, for the record, this has happened 1,000 times in the past. That was the big deal with Germany. It printed all those old Deutschmarks and replaced them with another currency. So it paid off.
That was in the 1930s.
Yeah, so it paid off all its debt in a dead currency, then replaced it with something else. So
But what the situations that it created gave rise to Adolf Hitler. So I want to use this time to illustrate the fact that there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes other than the tokenization of all things in the physical world. There is whispers of a war that is coming next year in 2026. The French are preparing their hospitals for triage on a battlefield level. So somebody is telling them, wealthy and powerful people are telling them there's going to be a war. They're going to force a war. They're going to force a people to war. The French Revolution happened because Masons withheld the grain supplies. So people could not make bread and they couldn't get any food. And people starved and they got hungry. And they rioted. Meanwhile, you had assholes like Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake.
These whole SNAP benefits. There are people who literally think that's what's going on here, that you're trying to starve people out. Not starve them out, but people will revolt when the food stores get taken away.
So food insecurity has increased with huge hikes in grocery pricing and low-income children relying on school food more than half of their food source. SNAP and WIC have been eliminated. This is the beginning of a storm that will give rise to food riots. Because SNAP recipients quickly spend their benefits, the economic multiplier effect is strong. The Joint Economic Committee estimates that for every SNAP dollar, there's a $1.61 of every economic activity. SNAP spending tends to skew towards certain types of food, not just ultra-cheap items, but also staples like produce, dairy, poultry, and etc. However, if benefits are cut or reduced, studies suggest consumers shift less spending on fresh vegetables, milk, and fruit, and more on cheaper proteins or fast food junk equivalents. SNAP is a relatively stable revenue source, especially for grocers. Low-income households may prioritize grocery spending when they have benefits, helping retailers maintain a base of demand. For large grocers, losing SNAP-related sales could be a noticeable hit. For example, reductions in SNAP benefits could translate into billions of dollars in lost grocery revenue. At the local level, SNAP spending supports more than just the grocery store. It helps sustain the food supply chain, farmers and distributors, which has ripple effects in the economy. Higher grocery activity can also contribute to local tax revenues. Putting into context, Kroger or Baker's, wherever you may be, or even Wegmans in the Northeast upstate New York area, these large U.S. high-service regional grocers will see big problems. For example, food traffic and loyalty. These large chains will lose benefit from high foot traffic among SNAP households. These shoppers who are regular customers, especially when these stores offer value for price and quality. Considering the product mix, these stores often stock more value-oriented items that SNAP users are likely to buy, but also remove leverage from its offerings, such as produce and dairy, because some SNAP dollars go there. All you got to do is go to your grocery store and look at the person with a bunch of kids who clearly doesn't have a bunch of money, or the poor people that you see going through the grocery store, and look in their shopping carts, and what do you see? You see a lot of items that are the brand X version of pasta sauce, or the brand X version of spaghetti noodles, pasta, or, cereal, or anything, all the things from the center part of the grocery store, the inside, the aisles, not the outer parts. That's where you see a lot of people buying the brand X stuff. But the people who have the SNAP benefits or WIC or EBT, oh, they tear the club up. They go in there like they spending money at the strip club. Because, food equates, it equals abundance.
Prosperity, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't have money, you want to feel like it. There's a couple things that will. So if this happens, first things first, Trump already said that they're going to give half the benefits. So if they got EBT, they'll get half their money instead of what they're supposed to get. But there's a couple issues, and I think one of the things that we haven't touched on this podcast, but Walmart is canceled a bunch of brands. They said they won't carry them because they have those dyes and all this other stuff. And I think that movement is going to influence other grocers to do the same thing. A lot of stuff we just know is making kids sick. But what if, because of what you just described, these stores don't get enough revenue, because the margins for grocery stores is very low. Like like when you go to a clothing store, markup is like 40% to 80%. 20% to make the sweater, but you sell it for $100. $20 makes $100. But the margin
at the grocery store, the manufacturers make all the money.
It's still, the margins are still low. Like you're looking at 5 is 10% of profit, so it's not the same kind of thing. But the point I was going to make is, what if those other grocery stores end up dying out and Walmart's the only thing left because they can't survive? Or
there's a reason why really young people and really old people work at a grocery store, because it doesn't pay well and it doesn't have great benefits.
Yeah, it doesn't have any, unless you're an actual cashier working full time. But the other part was, I'm thinking. So this is I'm not trying to politicize it, but people don't realize. People think that only minorities are on SNAP. No, it's about 60%, 55% are white males. Then and so we get confused when you hear the word SNAP. You just think food stamps and EPT. SNAP is all kinds of government subsidies.
One of my kids, a nice junior high school, and I drive by that junior high school occasionally, like during work. On Saturday mornings, they have a food drive every week. This is in a nice neighborhood, okay? There is a line around the school every Saturday morning in a nice neighborhood for that food. Dude, listen. These people that are going there to get that food, they're not in shitty cars. These are people in the newest cars. There's Teslas in these lines. There's Mercedes in these lines. There's cars like in the $35,000 to $50,000 range to $60,000 range in these lines. What I'm telling you is, this whole talk about, how we've been in a recession for a long time and nobody's been paying attention to it. I've been paying attention to it, because if you notice, during the pandemic when kids, when kids weren't in school, there were big problems, stories about kids going hungry because there was huge amounts of food insecurity, how they didn't have enough food in their house. And I can tell you, as a parent who has, 2 kids, and you got to feed those 2 kids, and you're not getting any assistance, dude, that shit is rough, man. You know what I'm saying? That shit is really fucking rough, because you got to hold it down. You got to make it happen. You know what I'm saying? There is no other option. My father, my mother, they held it the fuck down. When you're a parent, dude, failure is not an option. So that whole idea about kids going hungry during the pandemic, mine didn't. But there's kids who relied on the school lunch and the breakfast and after school programs to feed them, because there was very little food at home. Probably the only food they had at home was just the food for dinner and the weekends.
So, you know this. When my old lady moved up here, she has 4 kids. She did get food stamps eventually, but when she first moved up here, I always had 2 and 3 jobs. You know that. I used to bounce at the club, so I would just give her my club check. It was $500-$600. But then I also went to different pantries. And I taught my kids, like, hey.
But here's the thing: for those people out there who don't have kids, just go back in your memory and think about like how voracious your appetite was when you were a small kid, when you were in junior high school, when you were a teenager, especially when your body is just fucking exploding with like cell division, and you just gotta eat. You need fuel. Kids eat a lot of food, dude.
Look, I got good kids. I got bad kids. I got a lot of kids, and my good kids.
But they all eat.
Hold it. They all eat, but my good kids wouldn't miss a day at school. Like our youngest daughter, she was a nerd in school. My 2 other kids, but my older kids, they was always getting in trouble. So 2 of them would get suspended. Man, I would come home and all the cereal gone. I'm like, what are you? Because when they're bored, they eat. So I'm like, look, y'all need to start going to school.
But they eat just that one thing. And they're just like, one day it's like, I'm gonna eat all the cereal. Okay, cereal's gone. I'm gonna eat all the cookies. All right, I'm gonna eat all the apples. I'm gonna eat all the bananas. I'm gonna eat all the oranges.
Hey, that's hilarious,
dude. I come home, I'm like, y'all ate all that. You didn't leave me an apple. Like, come on, man. Like, you ate everything. Like, and then I come home, it's like everything is gone. I'm like, how about you give me a heads up and tell me that this stuff you eating the last of this stuff.
Hey, how about this? I got 4 kids. I came home one day, and we ain't had toilet paper for a day or 2. But
that's the worst.
You know me. I work 16 hours a lot, so I would come. I'm like, we got no toilet paper. Like, what the fuck was y'all niggas doing? Well, we were just shitting. I'm like, oh fuck.
How much shitting are you doing? Like, you must have the healthiest colons in human existence.
Like, are you eating toilet? Are you shoving it in your ass? Are you doing it backwards? Are you consuming the toilet paper? What the fuck? So look, when we were kids, what you just said was actually very funny, because I did that one time. I stayed home sick, so we love to stay home sick. You'd watch the Three Stooges, you watch cartoons early, and you would eat. I ate a bag of carrots and I ate all the cantaloupe. Man, I had an allergic reaction. To this day, I can barely eat cantaloupe, but it's all because my ass overconsumed it one day. And what you said is true. When you're a kid, you key in on some shit and you will devour it. And that's what I did once. And that's how I got a cantaloupe allergy, was because I ate a whole bag of carrots and 2 cantaloupes. And apparently, my body went into some kind of shock.
The crazy shit is like, but they always eat the shit that I want to eat.
Oh, no.
And there's other food. I'm like, hey, assholes, there's all this other food over here. Stop eating the stuff that I eat before I get up to go to work.
No, I got you. So me and Roscoe grew up in the same neighborhood, but different situations.
Practically in the same house, though.
Yeah. You had 2 parents. I had 1 parent. Everybody worked. Whatever. Yeah, but what my mom would do, because I would do that shit, I would like sneak food in my room at night, just eat the whole. So my mom started buying shit she knew I didn't like moon pies. Or she would get like a bunch of beets, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look at the refrigerator, like, damn, yeah. She was like, I like that shit. My mom would cook like liver for 3 days and shit. She would do shit to fuck with a nigga. Like, bitch, you don't eat all that, motherfucker. yeah. Like, nigga, we gonna see who gonna win this battle. Like, don't blink, nigga. We was having a staring contest and I blinked. You know what I'm saying? Um, Look, the whole thing with the SNAP benefit stuff and all the sometimes I think they test the market. I think COVID was a test. Or whether you think it was real, whether you think it was man-made, all that shit, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, I said the same thing because Roscoe will tell you I wasn't in New York for the World Trade, but I was in Oklahoma for that Merrill City bombing, the Merrill building bombing, excuse me, in Oklahoma City, and I just thought like we all like this is a test. And when you find out how many times the FBI was close to catching McVeigh and Terry Nichols, and they did a test run at a park, and his dad and the son was in a boat, and they were right there by the boat. They thought they would have to shoot these guys because they're getting too close to what we're working on. So there's part of me like, did they know and they just let this shit happen?
Yes.
Or there's so many different things. But so when I say a test, I do think they do test runs. I do think that they see what they can get away with. I do think they push boundaries, and if you respond a certain way,
those boundaries are called the price of food.
Yeah, and look, I'll be the first to tell you. I think that we do put. Roscoe was saying that food represents prosperity, and that's an arrogant thing. And sometimes we buy food because we can, not because it's healthy or whatever. And I do think that we probably need to fast more. And I do think that we need to learn a different kind of health system. I agree with all that, but I'd rather have the option to not eat than not be able to eat when I'm ready to.
Hey, listen. So I went back home recently, and everybody in my family that I saw said that I lost weight, and the reason for that is because I was putting my kids before myself. And I was making sure that there was food for them to eat. I still, did everything, I was supposed to do, working out and all that stuff, but I wasn't eating as much as I was before because, it was just me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, things are temporary, you know what I'm saying? Like nothing is permanent. But the whole point is that sometimes, there's parents that's doing it by themselves and they're putting all their energy into keeping other people alive. So, and it's sometimes, it's stress, but it's when you're a kid, man, like most of the time you're oblivious to what your parents are going through. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you're in your own world. But every now and then, if you have a little bit of awareness, you can kind of tell it's like, oh, this is a lot. You know what I'm saying? This is a lot. So
I've been on both sides of that this is back when, like I said, my wife had moved up here. She had just moved over to South Omaha. She got a nice townhouse. It was 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. But, she was still getting food stamps. So we're doing something. We got a call from the ambulance was called for my second oldest daughter. And she had passed out at a store around the corner. So we go there, and they're like, yeah, she's malnourished. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I'm like, what's going on, D? And she tells me, oh, well, I knew we moved and we didn't have any money, so I ain't been eating. I'm like, wait a minute. What made you think we don't have no money? I'm like, she had perceived that we were in a bad situation, and we weren't. I'm like, baby girl, if I have to ration food out because we're in a situation, I'll be honest with you, tell you, like, hey, don't eat every goddamn, save some of them Roman noodles, nigga. Don't eat all this shit. Don't eat all the food. But nobody said that to you. And so, she had got this in her head from actually somebody else in their situation. And so she equated it to her situation. And I'm like, okay, so first things first. I have no problem telling y'all what's going on or what I'm doing. And I might not explain everything to you, but I can tell you, don't eat every goddamn thing or don't do this. But what did we have for dinner last night? Oh, we had steaks because you wasn't. Yes. So we are good. And week before, what we did, we went fishing and we caught the trout. We cooked it. Yeah, we're fine.
See, but here's the thing, though.
Perception is reality.
Perception is reality. But see, like, the kids would be like, oh, we're not Going out and eating. Nope. We're not going out and eating because there's no money for that right now. So I said, but guess what? We still have pizza on, the days we have pizza. And we still have nachos on the days we have nachos. And these aren't like meager ass nachos. These are like, like loaded nachos. You know what I'm saying? I'll make, you know what I'm saying? Everything, all the food that they eat, I'll make it. Like I prepare it, I cook it. I cook it, because my parents did that. You know what I'm saying? So
look, how many times did y'all go out to eat the whole family? Because it was a lot of y'all.
I don't think we ever, dude. Honestly, I don't. Maybe once. Just because here's the deal, like you got to understand something, man.
You got a clan.
I won't. It's hard for me to pay a person to buy a sweet potato pie in the store because I can make one, and that comes from my mother. My mother made everything from scratch. Like you people don't know her, but like for those that do, and Duct Tape does, she made everything from scratch, from fucking scratch, dude. Like the fucking crust for the pie was made from scratch.
But no, see, like when I talked about your mom and her cooking, I told people on the podcast, her palate, she could literally taste the food and tell you what was in it. Like, oh, no, they use cumin. She could do that. And so, like I told you, one time she made me Popeye's chicken just to show me that she could make Popeye chicken. She knew but that's why it's so hard for you to, like, I'm not going to spend money on something I could do myself.
But here's the thing, though. So I tell the kids, you know what I'm saying, don't worry, your dad has swag. So we will have dumplings. We'll have Korean-style dumplings. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have all kinds of shit that we eat, because I like different kinds of shit. So I don't want to eat the same fucking thing all the time. So I'm going to change it up, and we're going to have this on this week and this on that week, But what I'm speaking to...
You're saying some deep shit.
Right, but what I'm speaking to is a cure for food insecurity. I think if people rely too much on prepackaged goods, you're going to hurt.
Government for food.
Exactly.
Whenever you rely on
somebody. But if you can get the building blocks of an excellent meal, and I'm talking about the ingredients and everything that you need to make it, as opposed to like buying something pre-prepared, then you're going to be okay.
Okay, I got two things I want to talk about. First of all, processed food, ultra-processed food. You hear this all the time. Back in your parents' day and my mom's day, see, they got food. My mom lived on a farm. My mom lived out in the country. They knew the hog's name. They knew the motherfucking chicken's name. They knew the cow's name. So my mom told me, she said, growing up, I didn't know we were poor because we always had food and we made our own clothes. So I didn't know we were poor. I didn't understand that till I got to college. But there's something I want to point out that they didn't do when me and you were kids, but I see them doing now. They make you think that if you don't have money, that you're a bad parent. Like, if you can't do this, you're a bad parent. When me and you grew up, there was no shame on not having a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? But now, it started out with the shoes and the Jordans, and now they want to have uniforms and all this, that, and other.
But see, that only lasted until I was 10.
Yeah, because I'm talking about right now.
Then at 10, I got a job.
Yes.
So what happened is I was no longer tethered to the child world. What I mean is I was no longer tethered to the child world of economy.
We bought our own shit is what you're saying.
Right, because you learned how to balance a checkbook, and I learned how to make money, with my hands, and then, buy the stuff that I wanted, and then it was like, yo, check this out, I got this, and we would go back and forth. But that's the whole thing is like, I wasn't tethered to the child world of money anymore.
One thing you learn from me is I'm cheap. And my mom was a thrift shopper, and you could tell this. We would drive for miles for a sale, nigga. How many times did we go to the mall in Council Bluffs?
All the time.
Remember there was a Richmond Gorman over there, and they were the only ones that had the tapes of the Transformers, so I couldn't afford it that way, so I hit the motherfuckers.
I did that plenty of times.
But what I'm saying is that we learned that even with my kids now, like, I'm a bargain shopper. Even when it comes to these cars, this, I'm not paying full price for these vehicles. So I learned that I can make my money work for me. I can get what I need. But back to what I was saying about making somebody feel guilty for not having money as a parent. So I got a homegirl. She don't have a car. She's bought a couple cars for me, but she's in a situation right now. She literally had worked a double. Now, was she drunk or high? Probably, but she overslept and didn't pick up her son. It's not the first time she did it. They sent the police to do a wellness check. She was drunk. Yada yada yada. They took the kid. He had special needs, but he's staying with a friend of hers. The situation is what it is. But that part right there, where you knew that she was literally working doubles, because she had told, like, hey, I'm working doubles, I'll be there. And she has to catch an Uber to go pick up her son when the bus don't, whatever. So I never remember that CPS being called so fucking often. I don't really remember CPS existing when we were kids. Now, there was a couple kids that came to school and smelled and shit. I'm like, damn. But, they never made you feel...
The only time you would hear about the authorities intervening is when there was visible abuse.
But even then, it had to be severe, because I got spanked.
No. I'm talking about, like, really bad.
No. I know what you're saying. And early on in our podcast journey, you know I don't have the best relationship with CPS, and I talked about it in some of the earlier podcasts. Attack on the Black family, you can refer to those. But the point I'm making is that they really will make you feel guilty. Then I didn't understand that guilt had already existed. So I'm dating a chick, and she's like, hey, I don't want him to tease my son. So she bought him some Jordans, or it was somebody else, but it wasn't LeBron yet, because she had bought some shoes for her son. She's like, hey, I don't want him to tease him. I don't want him to be like, you don't want him to tease him. Like, if somebody teased me, my mama told me that, sticks and stones, words don't hurt me. Or if they get too carried away, I'm allowed to hit them in the face. If they touch you or something, then you beat their ass. But everybody tries to tell me this is a different world. If you have kids and your kid gets into it, they tell your kid to roll up in a ball and go in the fetal position. And guess what? The kid on the floor still gets suspended, and the kid, they kicked him and hit him, they get 5 days, and the kid on the floor gets 3 days. They still get suspended for having a fight. There's so much of this shit that I don't agree with. So I had to tell my kids, I'm like, look, you're going to fight. Let me explain something to you. If you are valid in your behavior, I'll put you in a private school. I'll pay for it. I'm not going to sit here and let somebody fuck up my kids in the head about this world where you have to be able to protect yourself. My second oldest daughter, I told you the whole malnourished thing. Well, she has started going to Monroe, right? So she gets into it with somebody, and she don't want to fight him. I'm like, okay, cool. She said, well, can I go stay with Miss Rita? I'm like, you have to ask Miss Rita that, but do me a favor. Don't tell her why you want to stay with her. Just say I want to go to a different school, and that be it. She ain't listen. So she decides to tell my mama. She's like, hey, can I stay with you? My mom said, yeah, sure. And she says, well, I got in a fight, and I don't want to fight somebody. My mama said, oh, hell no, you got to go back and fight her. No, you can't stay with me.
Why'd you do that?
I don't harbor no pussies. I don't support punkism.
She gonna throw you in the gauntlet, dude.
She locked the screen door on my ass, made me fight.
She's on some 2-man enter, 1-man leave.
Yeah. So
she's fucking Tina Turner from a Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
But what has happened, and what Roscoe is talking about with the hellscape, is we keep saying this world's going, it's going to hell. But let's be honest. It's being steered in that direction. It is not just... It's
not happening organically at all.
It's not just bad people. They're not even allowing you to raise...
No, it's policies and agendas that are pushing people and society in that direction. Poor people first.
They even said your kids don't belong to you. They belong to the society. That's telling you some shit right there. So
human resources. And I'm not talking about the ladies who bake cakes on birthdays at work.
Look, if you've ever had kids in foster care, I will say this. My kids, all my girls, were either molested, got pregnant, or whatever in foster care. People, when they tell you that CPS and foster care is a pipeline to sex trafficking, that's because they want these kids that don't have parents, and they funnel them towards certain behaviors.
It's a farm system.
Yeah. And
Boys Town.
Look, I've dealt with Boys Town. I know both sides of Boys Town.
Yeah, dude, but like all the kids that are at the Omaha Home for Boys, all them kids was fucked up, dude.
Hold it. Again, my son was at Boys Town and the Omaha Home for Boys, so I can talk about it. But me and you grew up with boys that went there, and some of them niggas was organically fucked up. Some of them had bad parents. Some of these, remember Chris? Remember that dude that he put his whole fist in his mouth? How do you find out you can do that, nigga? And they all wore Chucks, and they had.
That's right.
They had we knew who they was.
They had a uniform that they wore. It was an unofficial uniform.
Yeah, it was unofficial. It wasn't a uniform as in
they wore Wrangler jeans and Chuck Taylors.
Yeah,
and some shitty cowboy shirt.
I remember I got in a fight with this dude named Caesar Reyes.
Yeah.
I remember everybody said, "Don't fuck with him. He goes to Home for Boys." Okay, what? He ran up on me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna fix you, nigga." Shit, I beat your homeless ass up, nigga. Fuck you. But what I'm saying is that they're literally not allowing you to raise your children the way you see fit. They're literally making you feel guilty for not having enough money to buy certain clothes, and that's another thing. You only see commercials for kids going hungry, but you don't hear commercials for adults going hungry because they're trying to pull on your heartstrings. Anybody who's had a kid that gets injured and you go to the doctor and they give them this treatment, and this treatment is supposed to last for a year, and like you're in your mind like, man, shit, my kid was well about 5-6 months back, but they'll still because you got insurance, they'll drain you, especially with the teeth. They're telling your kids they got cavities, but I'm looking, my kid ain't got no cavities, but oh yeah, we got to do fillings, we got to do braces. That's $5,000 right there, $10,000 right there. So they, if you got pets, they do the same thing with pets. They sit there and tell you it's $5,000. I'm like, damn, nigga, shit. I'm like,
that's
shit.
a scam.
Put that nigga to sleep.
That's a fucking scam. Listen, food insecurity will
always
cause
the thing
an explosion. SNAP WIC elimination will double or triple food insecurity rates almost overnight. Food banks and charities couldn't absorb the demand. SNAP provides 9 times more meals than entire U.S. charitable food system combined. Expect long lines at pantries. I told you about the school. Nutrition deficiencies in children and public health consequences, especially for pregnant women and infants. Dangerous. With SNAP and WIC benefits folding or being delayed, food insecurity is no longer a looming threat. It is happening now. Food banks and pantries are already overstretched, and they cannot absorb the millions who will lose access. For WIC recipients, the consequences are grave. Worse birth outcomes, poorer child development, higher health care costs. And then there are the public health and labor force effects. Then the question is, does WIC specifically reduce infant mortality, low birth weight, and child development issues, or just make people overweight, unhealthy, as aisles and aisles of junk food will be eliminated? Will removing it worsen long-term health costs and learning outcomes? Workers who rely on SNAP for stability might quit or relocate, tightening labor markets in unpredictable ways. Now, there are the broader economic and fiscal impacts. It will be interesting to see if there is an economic multiplier loss that could ripple through farming, trucking, and retail industries.
Hey, you just said some deep shit. Well, what if cutting WIC would get rid of a lot of the junk food dependencies? So, I think this is something that nobody.
See, you're missing something. So, what I said earlier in this episode is that with people losing access to this, they're probably more prone. Well, the less intelligent ones are more prone to buy the junk because that's comfort food for them. As a point, they'll buy, instead of buying an apple or a bag of apples, they'll go into the aisles and they'll buy fruit roll-ups, or they'll buy some fake 10%, 5% juice drink.
Yeah, yep. But so what I was saying is, I'm gonna ask you a question and you answer however you see fit. Do you think the pandemic made people healthier in general? I don't mean the jab, but I mean
I don't think so. I don't think people being at home made them see. Okay, this is what I'll say: the people who were not already health conscious, no, they didn't benefit. Actually, they got worse. I think the people who are health conscious got more well researched on it because everybody had time to do was just look into things.
But see that's
how conspiracies blew up on social media.
Well, hold it. No, conspiracies blew up because they were conspiracies.
No.
They existed.
It was no. I gotta stop you right there because you and I came up on Steve Coakley VHS tapes. And so the thing
No.
I got to outline here is that there was explosion of all these microwave Muslim Imhotep motherfuckers during the pandemic because all they had was time to sit around and look at this shit. And now you got all these fly-by-night people getting on these podcasts talking about, well, before the pandemic, I wasn't involved and I didn't think about this stuff. But then I just had all this time on my hands. And, well, okay, but you're taking up all the air in the room for somebody else who's way more researched and way more experienced in these topics than you are. But you got this huge follower base. So now you're the go-to person. Get the fuck out of here.
Are you more legit because you have more followers? Or are you more legit because you have good subject matter?
You're the reliable resource. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
So what I was asking with the whole, I think there are people who came out the other side way more aware because look at what's that, Barbara O'Toole and Gary Brecka. These people are telling you how to fix your health. And hey, if you take some niacin, if you eat these. The old home remedies. And I saw some black folks, I saw a couple of videos with black folks back then where they were talking about the old cures, how this young girl...
I was working at a person's house today and they had their phone on speaker and they were talking to their kid who was at school in high school. And the kid called them like an hour before school was out, begging to come home from school early because, they got a sneeze or just like some pussy ass shit. And they want to go to the emergency room. There's a generation of kids that want to go to the emergency room, and their parents are willing to take them to the emergency room for the smallest thing. And it's like, hey, get that motherfucker some chicken soup, and sit down and have some chicken soup and go lay down. You know what I'm saying? You'll be fine.
These people are not having conversations with their elders. The young black girl was reading from a diary from an old black person, and they were telling what to do for certain type of things. And one of the things you had talked about a long time ago was turpentine, and to take a cup of turpentine mixed with this kind of weed, it'll clear your stomach. And she was saying that if you have a cut and you don't have the proper thing to clean it out, take some old spider web, put it in there, and wrap it around there. It will drain the poison out and will heal faster.
I want everybody to look up a guy on YouTube. He's a black man. He's dead now. Dr. John Moore. Dr. John Moore was this herbologist. And there are VHS camcorder recordings of this guy at a black bookstore in Harlem, a black bookstore in Chicago, a black bookstore in Atlanta, a black bookstore in South Central Los Angeles. And this guy would say the craziest shit, but everything he said worked. He was like, women, if you got them mosquito bite titties, I want you to put some oil on your titties. I want you to put some vitamin E oil and get some wheat germ oil and rub them on your titties real good. I want you to get a strong man to put on them titties and start yanking on titties. And listen, do this every day. In 30 days, them titties gonna grow 1 inch. I'm like, oh my goodness.
But hold it. So one of the things I've been looking at that Barbara O'Toole, whatever her name is, and I was telling my mom, hey, you said your hip hurt. She has artificial hips. And I said use some ginger, and it worked for her. But then my mom said,
needs to go to the gym. She needs to lift. Your mom needs to increase her bone density. She needs to go to the gym and lift some heavy shit.
She ain't got no bone density. They're metal. But I know what you're saying. I'm like, Mom, you got to walk 40 minutes every day. Mom, you got to go all the way to the pond and come back. Yeah, that's the easy part. No, what she said to me was that she already knew about that, but she said when they were kids, they used cabbage leaves. So you when you actually have these conversations, that knowledge is not lost. We're not disseminating it. We're not.
She had her hip replaced.
She had them both replaced. That's when she got diabetes. First hip went great. Second hip caused her to have diabetes. That was back 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But
she doesn't. She's not an active person, though, really.
No, she works every day. She's fine. Trust me. She has a job.
Did she get exercise? Does she walk?
Yep. She is working with fucking preschoolers, and she's like, I'm tired of these motherfuckers. They're driving me crazy. I said, Ma, you need to exercise. Keep going. She works 10 hours, 3 days a week. She works Tuesday
So
and
she
Thursday,
reached
Friday.
her I hate kids face.
Yeah, it's like these motherfuckers, and they always sick. So I said, "Mom, you got to take vitamin D. You got to take. I don't care what it tells you
You
on the
know what
bottle.
she
You got
should
to take
take?
one."
She go to Walmart and go to the pharmacy section and get her the vitamin C emergency packets that
Yep,
like this, like 30 in a box for like $15. Get her those. Get her the one that's the orange flavor
yep, that's what I think.
that has zinc in it, and have her drink 2 of those every day. That's 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C.
Yeah,
That's going to protect her immune system.
but you need both. D gets rid of the motherfucking
Yeah, it
viruses.
has it in
Yeah,
there. It's in there.
yeah. But all I'm saying is that knowledge is still out there. I know when you talk to your parents, they used to talk about stuff that we just didn't know what they were talking about. We didn't understand it. But now that you said, now that I'm a parent, I see things through a different set of eyes, and now I understand why my mom did this. I remember being a kid, and they would talk about pregnant women eating dirt. Like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
But down
That's a mineral
south,
deficiency.
yes, down south, that
That we
dirt.
would see kids that would do that at school that would eat dirt, and I'm like,
I think they were just dirty because you had
no,
niggas
no,
eating
no,
worms.
no, 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 no. That was the body telling that kid, I need something that you not. You eating a bunch of
Yeah,
bullshit. I need this.
your diet ain't providing this. Um, I think what we're really saying is that don't think that whoever's steering this world in that direction. These people have been trying to steer the world that way for years, but we had enough people that had sense, had enough people that raised their own kids and were raised by their parents and their grandparents and their aunts and their uncles, and whether they were single parents or not. Um, these attacks were very intentional and deliberate. Everything from taking the father out of the home. You couldn't have Section 8, you couldn't have food stamps if you had the father there. You couldn't do this, you couldn't do that.
Here's another thing I want to say to people. If you can get to the country, if you can go to the country like once a month and go hunting, or you can go fishing, you should
Do
do
that
that.
activity.
You should
Yeah.
you should do it for several reasons. Number one, it'll get you out of the city and help you to decompress. And number two, it's a food source.
Well, more importantly,
If you can find a
decrease.
place that has like clean fishing and there's like the water's not contaminated, you need to go and fish there at least once a month and provide some food for your family through fishing.
But the reason he's telling you this is because you got to decrease your dependency. Why are these people so out of sorts? You
Also,
got these women.
you also need to find like local food sources such as honey that is harvested locally. That is an excellent food source because
That raw honey is important.
it's
All
also
that shit.
very beneficial for your immune system and for allergies. The pollen you can eat, the bee pollen you can eat to help you
Some
handle
people
that.
can't do. Okay, that was a big
Well,
thing.
I mean,
back
yeah, of
when-
course, some people, yeah, fine. I mean, they're not gonna
But
fuck with it. But I'm talking about the people who are fit enough to handle that shit. You know what I'm saying? But also, when you see somebody on the side of the road like selling peaches or plums or oranges or watermelons, pull over and buy some to support that person.
keep that
Because
shit going.
keep it going because that person is a gateway to fresh food that does not come with a crazy price tag.
Like go back to the
Dude,
raw
one
honey.
time I used to like get pallets of like Apple computers and I would put software on them and sell them to people. This Mexican family came and bought some, man, and they paid me for it and they gave me like a dozen ears of corn that still had been shucked. I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm about to fucking fuck this shit up tonight, man. You know what I'm saying? And it was great. I
Man,
had corn for a week.
look, um, if you mix that raw honey with sea salt, that's something that you should do before bed. That helps you balance your minerals. Helps with the. You think there's an opposite, but
If you
it
have a
curbs.
backyard, plant a fruit tree. It's going to take some time for it to mature and bear fruit, but just
Nigga, grow some tomatoes.
think of it
You,
as no. Think of it as an investment. Think of that fruit tree as an investment. You can do tomatoes and all that shit. You
no,
know,
tomatoes are faster. I'm just saying, when you go down that road, you need to see success right away, so you continue down that road.
yeah, I know.
Like
But
you
I'm
said,
talking
a
about
tree.
like a long-term investment, like because this is what happens. Every year, you're going to have a harvest. So long as you take care of that tree and like water it and make sure it gets like, organic fertilizer, you're going to have a harvest. I used to live in this house, and this house every other year, I'd be sitting in my room and I would hear pop, 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 pop on the rooftop. There were walnuts just dropping all the time during that year that they harvest, because they harvest every other year. Dude, you can go out with garbage cans and fill them up with walnuts. This tree was like, it had to be like 60 years old. So it was crazy walnuts coming from this tree.
In Tennessee, we wasn't doing the walnuts, we were doing the pecans. And you would just grab 2 pecans and crack them together. And you pull, make sure, don't eat the red part, that's nasty. And then, but that's the whole thing, is that we grew up in a time where we knew where the food came from. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we weren't city kids. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we still have a connection to the land that people don't have now. They have a connection to the grocery store. I sent my brother a video. This is a couple of years back. I sent you that video of that white girl, and she was saying she had bought a bunch of lemons from the store, and her friend was like, "Why are you buying lemons?" Like, well, because I need lemons. And she's like, "No, you have a lemon tree right there that's full of lemons." And she goes outside and picks some lemons and cuts them and feeds it to the girl. And she's like, "Am I the only one who didn't know that you don't need to do something to eat?" She didn't understand that you could just eat food straight from the tree. That you don't need a process or anything. We laugh, you chuckle under your breath, but that's actually a real situation. And as these people brainwash our kids, it makes it much easier for them to send these adults down this path to this hellscape that we just talked about. Another way there's 3 ways they get us. Of course, the media, because right now I'm getting inundated. I have a news thing on my phone, and they send me stories that these are things that we would talk about me once every 3 or 4 years. The molestation of kids. We grew up with John Jubert. We grew up with some fucked up shit going on.
So white van scooping kids up, taking them away.
Yeah. So we were familiar with that. But now, if you have some kind of news app, you get news from every state, every country, and you like, God damn, how bad is this? Or you just find out that they just had some big operation where they recovered like 45 kids in Texas and stuff. But what I'm saying is that is there to scare you. You don't realize that you can prepare your own food. You don't realize you can raise your own kids. That you don't have to subscribe to what everybody else does. And I'm telling you, that's one of the problems I had. Too many single women got involved with my children, and it was a problem. There are certain behaviors that they allow that my mama didn't allow. So, okay. In this day and age, you see, like my brother just told you, after COVID, everybody got a podcast. And everybody wants to be Kevin Samuels. But Kevin Samuels was much more nuanced, and he talked about real issues. He might have been a prick about it, but he talked about it. And he did some news, too. But you got every motherfucking half-ass Muslim / foreign motherfucker get a podcast, and can't no woman raise no man. And I'm like, y'all don't say that to any other race but black race. You don't say it to whites. You don't say it to Mexicans. You don't say it to Chinese, Asian. You don't say it to anybody. You only say that to black women. And black women will internalize and try to justify. I'm like, my mama never justified shit. She told me what to do, how to do it. She told me what I would encounter in life. And if I didn't do what I was supposed to, there was consequences. I got my ass whooped. And to this day, trash day was Tuesday because garbage got picked up on Wednesday. When I got home from school, I had to collect all the garbage and take it outside, take cans to the street. If I didn't do that, there was going to be hell to pay. So when somebody tells you can't no woman raise a man, that's because she's too busy trying to be that little nigga's friend and try to dress him like the nigga that left her. So when you sit here and see that kind of shit, that's what I get it. But the world is telling you that this shit's okay. So we have to right the ship and turn it in a different direction. If you're dependent on the government, you're in trouble. If you sit here and you like one politician over the other politician, that's like a nigga who likes strippers. You're an idiot. That chick don't like you. She told me her real name. You're an idiot. There is no politician that's down for you. There's no politician that will make your life better. And if you need a politician to make your life better, then your life was pretty damn fucked up. You should have been doing something different in your life, whether it's your children. And you don't have to have children to understand the love of a child and what's right and wrong. You don't have to. You don't have to get browbeat into thinking that no child should go hungry. I agree with that. But I don't want to depend on the government to make sure my kid eats because they will give you shit that you don't want your kid to have. Look, this hellscape shit is real because we're being steered in a very unhealthy direction. You don't have the connection to spirituality. And religion is just a tool to get to a higher spirituality. But religion should not be what you depend on. If religion is how you build a bond with a higher power, and then you recognize it, and you treat people right, and you have a moral compass. But don't allow these motherfuckers to feed your kids, because if you do, they will feed them the knowledge and the food that they want to feed, and not with what you agree with. But hey, that's where we at right now. We got to sit right the shit, my nigga.
What's important is that you push back when it's important. When there's somebody telling you you have to have this real ID for this transaction, well, then I don't need to have the transaction. You know, some of us already have the real ID, that's fine, but it's important that you do not use that as a tracking device for all of your transactions. Now, of course, you got to get on airplanes, you know, when you have to travel and all that stuff. But if you can avoid that and you can just drive that long distance, then do it.
But what Roscoe just said was really deep. If you have to use your real ID for a transaction, that's why it's important that we create our own markets. If I got to go to a grocery store and use a real ID to get food, then I need to be buying them peaches this nigga told you about.
It's called parallel systems. And by having parallel systems, whole ways that you can operate without being within the traditional system, then let's do that. It's going to happen anyway. There's going to be the black market, underground market is going to grow even more, because what I've described in the first half of the show is how they want to use the part of the real ID called the phone home to make a record of where you go, what you're doing.
Your movements.
Now, there's cameras on the roadways that record your license plates. All right, cool. So they want to track my physical whereabouts, and they also want to know where I'm using my ID digitally. There are ways around that. There is a license plate cover that's translucent, but it has crystal or silver grains inside of it, and it reflects the photograph flash back at the camera, and it records nothing. So there are ways to deflect these automatic license plate readers, ALPRs, so that you don't have these problems and they don't photograph you and you can remain private. See, a lot of this has to do with privacy. They keep trying to like just knock down the door and come into your world, but you have to keep the drawbridge up and protect Castle Grayskull, because they will keep coming. And it's important that you are strong and you hold the fucking line. I've recently did a job for a woman, and she was a CPA. And I said, listen, I'll do this job for you, but you have to pay me in cash. And she, over the phone, she agreed. And then I got there, and I finished the job. And she was like, tell me why you wanted to be paid in cash. I said, because this is a discrete transaction between two strangers. And I perform the service, you pay me for the service. There is no need for the government or the IRS to know about that. None whatsoever. Cash is anonymous and discreet. There's no tracking device, that's active in it. There's passive tracking, but active.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing, though. The thing is that you can't track my movements if I'm off your radar. And that's really the message of all this, is that they want to track you through the real ID, home, phone home thing. And then they want to get rid of the food because they're going to starve people. And then kids will be desperate to provide for their family. So they'll go to war to fight in another illegal war overseas. What's going to happen is these people who are fucking around over there with the Khazarians they're going to want Uncle Sam's magical school bus to pull up and drop off the poor kids who can't have no food to eat. But don't worry, Sam will give you room and board, 3 hots and a cot, and money to send home to your parents so they can spend money on these $50 gallon of milk groceries. You know what I'm saying? It's all a fucking scam. Find out about parallel systems within your community. Create parallel systems within your community and use them. You do not have to do everything on the radar. You don't have to do everything above the board.
Look, I was about to go there. That's one of the things that social media makes you think it's okay not to have privacy. These reality shows have you confused.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. What you don't understand, the people that you aspire to be, the super rich people that you aspire to be, they pay handsomely for security. They got
and privacy.
But listen. That security provides privacy. What they really want is privacy. You always hear about these rich motherfuckers. They build these tall walls so nobody can look over them or climb over them. And they have like a no-fly zone for drones over their house so nobody can fly in and photograph. They are paying for privacy. But this is something that we should already have as Americans. That's our birthright. But here it is, they take it away and they want to sell it back to you. They do this shit over and over. They take it away and sell it back to you.
Hey, look, stop trying to be a star. Stop trying to be famous. Stop trying to get people to see, because what happens is then when it translates to, oh, I don't mind having a real ID.
The whole reason why you don't know what we look like is by design. Because I am not going to monetize our faces for a tiny amount. Like David Banner says, people are just giving away their creations for nothing. Oh, just read these ads and you'll make a couple $100 a month. All right, but you've recorded my face and you're going to make a digital copy of that. So you're going to connect that to my real ID. And so you're going to like tokenize everything that my straw man. They're basically tokenizing your straw man without calling it your straw man.
Like this digital shit. I don't know if this is true or not, but I definitely heard where one of the remote seers said this whole digital thing, this digital asset, the hash graph and the blockchain is some shit that existed a long time ago and it's from someplace else. I don't know if that shit's true or not, but it damn sure makes sense why they're so urgent to put everything on a blockchain. Do you agree with it? Don't know. But protect yourself from this shit.
But also make yourself aware of these things so that you can see what's coming. And another layer that's added to that is catastrophe. Catastrophe capitalism. And, you may live in a place that is wiped out by a hurricane, Jamaica, right? You have people in Jamaica who are fucked up right now and they're trying to rebuild. But they have a food source all around them. They can go to the beach, they can fish, and they can get food to eat for their family. Or they can go to the hills and they can get the fruit that's growing from the trees. But catastrophes are another way to take away your sovereignty and take away your claim to the land. So again, this is a whole nother way of looking at, these methods that they employ to just
we ain't heard nothing about
discombobulate you. Nope.
What happened to Maui? Look, when we tell you to have dual societies or parallel
systems,
systems, yes. One of the things that, hell, we got a little digital shit. We got a little digital currency because we're trying to be like, hey, I don't agree with it, but I need to make sure that when that shit goes down, I can still supply food for my family if we convert to this digital. Yeah, I know how to shoot a gun. I know how to garden. Is it what I do every day? No, but what I'm saying is you got to be able to exist in parallel systems. You need to be familiar with it. You ain't got to do it every day, but you damn sure need to be able to, okay, yeah, let me see how this works. Oh, okay, cool. I know how this computer works. I know how this works. You ain't got to be proficient, but you damn need to be familiar with shit. You need to know how to work a gun. You need to know how to load the motherfucker. You need to know how to shoot.
You need to know how to clean fish.
Yes, but that's what we're saying is that we're not saying that you need to just fucking give your life up and walk around like Kane from Kung Fu.
Expand your life skills. Expand your vocabulary of your life skills.
Don't think less of somebody because they have a gun, because that's how we were brainwashed as kids. Oh, you want to solve everything with violence? Nigga, I want to solve whatever the fuck I need to solve. And if violence is the answer, I'm there. If you come to me right, if you run across in my front yard, I will toast marshmallows. You understand what I'm saying? Because I ain't running from nobody. And y'all niggas that did it, I got a bullet for every last one of y'all motherfuckers.
Well, there you go.
You got to be able to fight the fight as it's necessary.
Exactly. And it changes, and you have to be agile and aware and be able to adapt to what's coming at you. So that's why we provide the problems and solutions no matter where you have to meet them. Look, that's all I got. We out. Peace.
Holla back.